What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Super Fresh 808 podcast. I am DJ Tide alongside with DJ Unz and DJ Corey Farron, aka Ferry Corsten. So this is a brand new podcast, and basically what it is a collective of Hawaii DJs where we'll talk about the latest in DJing, producing music, promoting events, drama, etc. So let's start off with introductions. Go ahead with DJ Unz first, and then Corey Farron.
DJ Unz here, a.k.a. Mike Darnell.
Tell us a little about yourself, please.
Moved to the island here about 5 years ago, so I'm kind of a transplant. So I've been DJing for 10, 15 years roughly, and part of the Pure Coalition gang.
Okay, you Corey Farron?
What's up, everyone? It's Corey Farron. I've been part of the rave scene in California and Hawaii for about 23 years now.
Holy shit.
And I've been DJing about 19 of them now. Yeah, so I'm pretty old.
Very old school. So I'm DJ Tide. I've been around not as long as Corey, but since 1999. Been DJing since 2001. And I've been helping out here and there with different promotions over the years, Double Spot, Livewire. And I'm still around. So let's talk about the history of our respective scenes. I know, Mike, you said you were from Oregon. You want to tell us a little bit about where you come from there, about the history of your DJing career there, etc.?
Yeah. I kind of started doing this, 05, 06. There wasn't the genres out there now that were being played back then. It was very centric to trance, dubstep, there weren't a lot of factors and a lot of shards as far as genres go, but it was a different time, to say the least. Corey knows this as well as I do. We're a bunch of old men, but it was a different time back then with the rave scene than it is now. Started on turntables, and then as the digital era, came about, moved into that. And just been doing it ever since.
What was the popular styles back then in terms of music? Because I've heard over the years from other DJs from that area, it was like drum and bass, dubstep became popular later, kind of trance, but I heard the Oregon scene was a little bit kind of not as candy kiddish as, like, say, the San Francisco rave scene or LA.
That's true. Drum and bass was around. There was definitely drum and bass nights at quite a few of the bars in my local area. So drum and bass was pretty popular in my neck of the woods around that time. Not so much dubstep until 09, 2010. I think that's kind of when dubstep kind of took off. But yeah, it was mostly drum and bass.
Nice. What about you, Corey? I know you've been around a lot longer than I have, so you have a lot to say about the Hawaii scene.
I got the gray hair to show it to
you.
Yeah,
you don't have to pull off your pants until later, man.
Let's see, I started like in the 90s. I'm not going to say when in the 90s, but, it was a bunch of friends and me in high school. We were going to raves out in California, like out in the middle of the desert, in abandoned warehouses, with everything run off generators and, really low budget, but, awesome vibe, awesome times, and that's what really got me into it.
So you're talking about venues such as the Eye or 1015, what, the Galaxy or whatever it was called back then?
Yeah, that.
No, wait, Galaxy
more
was...
More like in California, though.
Oh, okay,
It was like in the middle of the desert, like... Yeah, basically the desert.
So kind of like a precursor to the whole Burning Man type of vibe. Well, I mean, Burning Man was around back then, but...
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, I don't even know how to explain it, man. It's completely different. Not like where you have now, where you have these elaborate stages and, these multi-million-dollar events. It was a really small scale.
It's definitely a different monster nowadays.
It is, definitely.
There's so much that goes into these shows.
Yeah.
It was a lot more simple back when we were doing it.
It was.
Yeah, I think the most they had in terms of decorations in the I started in San Francisco, so I went to all the big warehouse raves there, and they would have decorations made out of styrofoam with black light paint on it.
Exactly.
And that was trippy for people back then. Nowadays, it's like a giant worm and like a giant stage. I don't. If I went to a party nowadays, under certain circumstances, I think my brain would explode from all the visuals.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's
too much.
Yeah.
That's why us old guys sit in the back at all those shows.
Yeah.
I know we need that chart to bring to parties so we can.
Yeah.
Oh man, so yeah, the Hawaii scene, it's had its ups and downs. I know you weren't around for it, Mike, but the scene didn't start the scene was kind of popular back in the early 2000s is when it started booming, up to 2004, and then I think the shop kind of helped to rejuvenate the scene somewhat. I know you were around back then too. You want to tell us about how the scene was, in your viewpoint?
For me, it was like 99, 2000, with 2000 being what was it called? Future 2000.
Oh, dude, that was crazy.
When Double O Spot brought out BBC,
Carl Cox,
and that was broadcasted live on BBC. So that I think for me that was like the cherry on top for the peak of the scene at that time.
What about you, Mike? Who are some DJs that you saw in Oregon that helped to shape your DJ career? Who were the influences?
Well, you have to understand where I was from back then. There weren't a lot of well-known DJs that came through Oregon. If they did anything, they would do something like in Seattle, and then they would just go right down I-5 and just bypass Oregon altogether and hit California. It just wasn't a state at that point in time that you could really see anybody you wanted to see. I'd say, 08, 09, we started to actually see some artists come in that were really big at that time. Deadmau5, which came out 06, 07, I think, is when he started to get real big. He came through in 08. Got to see him live, before he kind of turned into a massive tool. No offense to Deadmau5, but, got to see him. Got to see Chucky, which I just recently saw at the Republic, who killed it at the Republic just as much as he did, 6 years ago.
Chucky's from Amsterdam or somewhere in Europe, correct?
Yeah, he's Dutch, yeah. But he killed it at Republic, so it was nice to kind of see him 6 years later still mastering his craft, because that guy, I was able to see him from the side of the DJ booth, and just to watch what he did on 4 decks, just queuing tracks and just blending and whatnot, it was just mind-boggling.
Nothing pre-recorded there, yeah.
Nothing pre-recorded.
No sync or anything,
No
right?
sync
I know
there.
we have a lot to talk about that later, because
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting subject, that one.
What about you, Corey? So who would you consider your influences in DJing besides my... No, I'm just kidding.
Well, of course, Tide first. Doc Martin was probably the first one that I saw that made me want to DJ. Just seeing him out in LA, this is early 90s. Just seeing what he could do on some tables was just incredible. And at the time, he was playing Acid House, and him playing Acid House and just the way he programmed his sets and everything was just amazing, and that really influenced me to DJ.
So let's inform the listeners, because I'm sure most of them don't even know what Acid House is. Can you kind of explain what that is as a genre?
Oh
Because
my god, it's like a mix between
acid and house. Or
I want to say like a mix between like progressive house and like tech house.
So it's kind of like, I know back then they considered the mainstream music techno, but I know it was considered hardcore. Right, before it split into happy hardcore and drum and bass. Is that what you're referring to as the genre, Acid House, aka? No, it's totally different.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. Look, yeah, different than that. It's, like about 124, 126 BPM. Really progressive, and especially at that time. That time in the early 90s, the mainstream rave stuff was like Go Speed Racer and Sesame Street. And all that,
DJ Kyoki, right? Yeah. I remember hearing that. I was like, wow, I can't believe there's like such sexual songs that has to do with a cartoon, because I didn't know any better, For me back then, when I saw articles on the rave scene, I thought, oh, it's one of those parties where people go and have orgies and do a lot of drugs, and so back then it was taboo for me. So.
Right.
So who would you consider in Hawaii the guys that you look up to, not as influences, but as peers, like people you respect?
Oh man, there's so many of them, new and old. Guys coming up when I first came up, like I said, in the mid to late '90s, was definitely like G Spot, Daniel J. They were the pioneers here when I first started DJing out here.
Big Daddy Dave. Yeah, he was actually. I don't want to say influenced, but he was there for a lot of people. Like he got people in the trance basically with his sets.
Definitely, he definitely did that. It was definitely interesting following him every Friday and Saturday at 17s, but yeah. He
Okay, so on a side note, we need to explain what 1739 is because a lot of people don't. Do you know what that is?
I don't know.
Okay, so
man.
we'll explain that to the listeners, and so Mike knows.
1739, aka Galaxy, aka
Virus was the other after hours.
yeah, Virus was the other one.
Crack house.
1739 Galaxy and shit, I'm losing it now. Well, anyway, it was right here in Waikiki on Kalakaua Avenue. It's actually the address was 1739 Kalakaua, and it was an after hours club that was here. I think from like early like '94 or something, and it was here till 2006, I believe.
And when we say after hours, this place went from 10 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night till 10 in the morning the next day sometimes. Pretty crazy.
Whenever we really wanted to close. And yeah, it was it was an honor being a resident there for that long. I was there for about like 8 years, and it was just an awesome time just throughout those years, just playing at a place like that where you can play whatever you want, and just had an awesome crowd every night.
Yeah, that place was actually the first place I went to for a party when I got into the rave scene back in '99. That place and Climbers Paradise.
Climbers, yeah.
That place was Climbers Paradise was basically a mountain climbing place that they threw parties at.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any places like that in Oregon, like after hours crazy spots?
No.
Not at all.
No, not even a little bit. Our vice was listening to a very repetitive playlist DJ every Thursday night. The closest thing we had to anything was an alternative night at one of the nightclubs where you could go get drunk for free and watch gay and lesbians just get freaky on the dance floor. Too repetitive music. And I mean, at that time, it wasn't anything, trance related or
no house parties.
There's no
or
house
anything
parties.
like
And it was very much like Marilyn Manson stuff. It was very much, The Cure.
Oh, it was like all the grunge, like.
Yes, Depeche Mode. Stuff like that, which was great. But yeah, again, reverting back, we didn't have anything close to what you guys had here. We had to go find it, and we had to literally drive 4 to 5 hours to go find it.
Well, it wasn't the fanciest place, that's for sure.
Yeah,
17s was kind of.
I think the reason why we had all these weird spots for parties is because Hawaii is so small. We didn't have a lot of choices, so they were able to get away with throwing these parties at weird events. I mean, one of the craziest spots I've heard of that I never went to was a bomb shelter by Mililani. I mean, how crazy is that,
Yeah.
And I don't even know how they got in there because it's like on military grounds, but props to them for doing that.
Cornfields. We did them in cornfields.
Children of the Dirt, yeah, I remember hearing about that party.
Children of the Red Dirt.
Oh, man, good times.
Yeah.
So, music-wise, what are you into nowadays currently? Because I know when I first started getting to the rave scene, one of the big things about you that I remember is that you used to always play off of the record label, Judge Jules record label. What was it?
Okay.
Canaan Unabled, or not Indecent. It's.
I can't think of it. I played a lot of stuff off Ferry Corsten's label, Tsunami.
You mean off your own label?
Yeah. Interesting story about that. I used to get. I was on their mailing list for Tsunami. I got to meet Ferry Corsten.
Oh, nice.
When I played in Amsterdam way back in the day, and so yeah, I got a lot of cool stuff from him, and again, it was an honor just being able to do that.
I'll be completely honest. When I first moved over here and I started running with the Pure Coalition gang, and somebody told me that this guy's name's Corey Farron and he's playing trance music, I literally thought it was a play on Ferry Corsten's name. Like, this guy's trying to play off of Ferry Corsten.
Yeah, people ask me, "Is that your real name?"
Seriously, I think I asked you the first time I met you. Is that your real name? Is that your DJ name? What is that?
Yeah. I should have never changed my old name.
What was your old name? It was Corey. That's such a raver DJ name.
Yeah, it is.
What about you, Mike? I know you play a lot of different genres, but what's your main style?
Right now, I've kind of reverted back to the bass house kind of house music that's out there right now. I don't know why I've kind of been digging piano house, and I don't know if that's just my age.
I love piano riffs.
Yeah, like Don Diablo stuff, where there's a lot of pianos and whatnot in the track. Yeah, I've kind of gotten off of electro. I've kind of gotten off a little bit on progressive, but I've gotten off electro. It kind of all sounds the same nowadays.
Yeah, excuse me. Electro is, I mean, there's like they kind of mesh it together with EDM slash
even Dutch house.
Yeah.
Like I like there's a lot of electro Dutch house kind of stuff going on right now, and it's
hard to find the really good stuff that isn't something that you've heard 100 times before,
exactly. As long as I've been in this, if I can literally listen to a song for 32 bars, and and I'll be like, I've heard that before, and I'll click off of it.
Reminds me of that SoundCloud song that someone posted where it takes like samples from like the most popular songs and you can't even tell the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that has to do with not just the DJs being, in my personal opinion, lazy, but the fact that the crowd nowadays, they want that instantaneous satisfaction of just getting that drop and then going to that bass line with a cheesy vocal or whatever.
Yeah, for me, it's always been building up to that
True.
point. I can't do a set of just bang it out for an hour. I like taking people on that journey. Getting inside their head and messing with that a little bit, and I just can't bang it out for an hour and a half. I like to build up to that.
I think that there's I'm not a producer. I don't have time to produce in my life. I'm too old to produce right now, in my opinion. But I feel like that there's so many tutorials. There's so many things that DJs in the past, you didn't know how a DJ was doing what he did because there wasn't social media, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't anything that you could really know other than just listening
or train spotting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And nowadays there's so much information that you can get that I feel like you've got these people like Data Life, and they'll throw out samplers, they'll throw out things for Ableton that you can use to beef up your track or whatever. But I feel like it's producers being lazy with basically trying to mimic something that
Whatever's
DJ's
popular, basically.
Right. That maybe even that DJ has done already. Now he's trying to show you a trade secret. You create a track, it sounds exactly the same. It's like, that's not creative in my opinion. But like I said, I'm not a producer, so I'm not going to bash on that.
Yeah. The digital age and MP3s and everything just completely changed. Not even just, the EDM scene, or the rave scene, whatever you want to call it, but just DJing in general. It's a completely different game when previously, if you didn't have vinyl, you couldn't play a song if you didn't have that vinyl.
Right.
Now it's like everything's accessible. Everyone has access to the same stuff, and which is good and bad. There's a lot of stuff I'm glad I can get, and I don't know. It's good and bad, I guess.
Yeah, music nowadays, it's so easy to just go on like a blog and just download music, and sometimes the song isn't even like the best quality. It could be like 128 or something, and you'll hear kids play it. Excuse me, I don't mean kids literally, but the younger DJs.
Well, kids to Corey and I.
Yeah.
You're not far
These
behind me.
I'm not. kids quote unquote playing these songs, and these younger DJs didn't grow up with playing vinyls, so they don't even know the difference in playing like with the level of the music. Like one song could be higher than the other when they do a transition, and it just sounds like crap. And that's another topic, is a lot of these younger DJs, in my opinion, don't bother to learn the basics. And I know that's a big argument with the whole vinyl versus controllers and MP3s, but I really think the younger DJs should learn the basics of beat matching without sync and tractor, so that they train their ears
That was the thing, going back to when we all, first started DJing. If you couldn't mix, you didn't play out. Now you don't have to learn how to mix, and there's good and bad to it. I mean, but for me, coming from the era that I came from, and being able to mix was the number one thing.
Right.
Mixing and programming to me will always be the most important things as a DJ.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You know what I miss? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just saying I can't remember the countless hours I spent in my living room on my decks, just hammering out tracks. This sounds good. This doesn't work. This matches. It's just feel. I mean, you got to a point where you know what sounded good. You used it. I just feel like it's real easy these days with controllers and sync, and where you can be lazy and you can just, I can do effects, or I can slice this up or cut this up and make this track my own. And it's like, dude, just let it play.
Yeah. I mean, the good part about it is that there are some DJs that are just really extremely talented, and they take advantage of what the technology lets them do, and they've come out with some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But just for people who are just starting out, I mean, like you said, it's
cutting to the front of the line.
I mean,
it's cutting to the front of the line, basically.
Yeah, I started out with 2 turntables, a mixer, and I think I had like 8 vinyl.
Yeah.
When I started out, and
just wore those records.
It was the same 8 tracks I played for hours on end, and drove my girlfriend crazy. But that's how I learned how to DJ.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of the DJs nowadays take. I know it's like been grounded to the ground, but they don't take chances with their sets. They play it really safe nowadays. They just play an intro, outro. And I know you guys are always experimenting with your styles, but a lot of the newer DJs, maybe some of the older DJs are lazy, but they just play those really simple intro, outro. They don't do any creative mixing. I hardly ever hear that nowadays, And to me, it kind of destroys the purpose of what a DJ is. Besides getting the dance floor moving, I think a DJ should always try to improve themselves, learn new mixing techniques, learn how to do different things. Even me, I've been DJing for 14 years, and I'm only now getting into scratching just because I want to learn something new.
Yeah.
So I think it's always important to improve yourself as a DJ, even if you think you're the best or whatever.
I mean, it's getting to the point where everyone sounds the same. They're playing the same music. They're mixing the same way. I mean, power mixing and slam mixing, and everyone's starting. I mean, I'm not here to piss anyone off or anything or say that I'm better, but I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to sound the same, and for me, it's like you need to push the boundaries a little bit more. Expose people to something new that they haven't heard 1,000 times already.
And you would think with music nowadays, the intros and outros are like 32 bars nowadays.
Yeah.
Usually.
You should be able to throw more music in because the songs have shorter intros and outros, and you can do a lot more with just waiting till the end of the song and then mixing in.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
Oh, I wasn't gonna say anything. Sorry.
Yeah. So
I think for me, a good DJ has that balance. Just being able to read the crowd and program his set accordingly.
Do you feel like DJs these days, specifically here, because we don't know what goes on in the mainland, but do you feel like DJs don't go that route of pushing the boundaries for fear of clearing a dance floor?
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of them are already at that point where people are expecting to hear a certain sound from them, and which is great. Everyone should have that certain sound, because I'm one that I won't play anything that I don't like, regardless if everyone says, this is the shit. This is
right.
Can you play this? No, if I don't like it, I'm not gonna play it.
And there's fear. I mean, I've heard there's fear also with club owners too.
Yeah, there's that too.
Don't play this kind of music, or play this kind of music only, or stuff like that. I mean, it's there's stories that I've heard from DJs that a couple of the shows that were put on by Electric Palms, literally you had to send in your set list. Basically, these are the songs that I'm going to play in my set, and they picked you based on that set list. Not sure if there was any mixing going on, or if there was any, mini mixes, or it was basically like, this is my set that I'm going to play, and they basically determined it. It's what it sounded like to me from a lot of the DJs I've talked to that sent their lists in that didn't get picked.
That's another aspect that I don't like. I don't like saying this is what I'm gonna play tonight. I like to be able to have an idea of maybe where I want to go, but I like to bend it to the crowd. Sure. I can't just say I'm gonna play these 20 tracks in this order. I can't.
Plus, you never know what the DJ before you's going to play.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if you showed up and you've got your set list and the DJ played 4 of your tracks, you're not going to replay them, are you? Yeah. Some will. Some have. Some have done it. I've been there and witnessed it.
Yeah.
Sometimes 4 times in a night.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
4 DJs back to back to back. Like that new hot track that's out. All 4 of them played it. It's like
Or sometimes you get, pretty drunk and you actually
Sure.
play the track back to back.
testify. I hear you.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with contracts, which I never particularly liked as a DJ, because if you have a contract, you gotta stick to it. Like with the whole playing a certain track list. Like, what if the crowd's not digging what you're playing, but you still gotta play it?
Yeah.
And I've personally kind of seen this happen at certain events in Hawaii that are on a massive scale, where the crowd is just kind of like booing it, but I could tell the DJ on stage, probably maybe because of the contract, had to continue playing that set.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
sucks. So
Are we talking about Tiesto?
maybe. So to the listeners, this is a no holds barred kind of a podcast, so we're allowed to talk about whatever. So don't get insulted. These are our opinions. So
Yeah,
you don't have to agree with them. That's okay. We don't agree with yours. That's fine. So let's go on to a new topic, which is the popularity of certain genres in Hawaii. What do you guys feel are the most popular genres right now, and what are your opinions about these genres? Let me start off by saying I don't particularly like tropical house. I think it's the most it's a nice genre to listen to if I'm in like a champagne room or something, or like on the toilet. But other than that, I know there's certain genres, and for me, my style is electro house, not like the typical electro house, but more like the dirty, grungy type of electro house, like the old Wolfgang Gartner style, and breakbeats. I've always loved breakbeats.
Yeah.
But what do you guys feel about the new genres? Can you list what you guys feel are the new genres that are popular in Hawaii and your opinions on it?
I think right now everyone's jumping on the future house.
Agree with that, yeah.
I don't even know what future house is. I've heard the term before. Can you explain that a little?
The best way I can explain it is maybe house with the touch of electro to it. That's probably the best way I could explain.
Semi-electro house.
Yeah, I'm not one for genres.
It's hard to explain
Yeah.
genres nowadays. They come up with like.
There's so much in between, and but I think right now everyone's doing the future house thing. I think electro and big room is going to be around for a while. No matter how stale it gets, I think it's going to be around for a while.
Well, it's what the masses want. So.
Yeah, it is for the masses. It works. I play it. I play all kinds of stuff. But future house, electro is probably gonna be around. I hope trance makes a comeback because I miss our trance parties that we have out here.
I know Paul Brandon, but
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think trap too is another genre that the kids still seem to like, and
Yeah.
I think it's okay as a genre, but I get kind of bored after 30 minutes if it's the same kind of like.
Yeah, I can't listen to one specific genre for very long. I think that's why my sets I'm kind of all over the place. I guess try and mix it up. I don't want to be, I don't want to bore myself or anyone else out there. So
I think one of the important things is if you're a DJ and you get bored by another DJ's set because they don't go around with different styles, and I think as that DJ needs to kind of fix something. I mean, I know most DJs kind of talk trash about each other now and then, or they critique each other, but I think that's a good sign that if a DJ gets bored of another DJ style, maybe there's something you could fix there.
yeah, I mean, we're all in the same game, and like us here having this podcast here, we're all friends. A lot of us are friends, and it doesn't mean I'm not gonna say, hey, something was wrong with the set or something. I'm here to help them out. Yeah.
Well, I think we're good enough where we all never had to do that towards each other. And
Yeah, I think so too. We've all been through all the stages of the scene here in Hawaii, and I think just going through that, we all have that kind of bond. We've seen it go from starting to get big and then kind of died off for a while, and then it just got huge, and so we've seen it all here in Hawaii.
Yeah, I know, Mike, you've only been here about, 4 or 5 years, but even being here that amount of time, you've seen the scene change dramatically, correct?
Absolutely. I kind of jumped right into it. 2011 is when I got here, and it was in full force.
Yeah.
There was minimum 7 or 8, groups of people playing shows. There were tons of places to throw parties.
Yeah.
Tons of places. So it was, and it was like Corey said, we're all friends. We've gotten to know each other. I think at that time, that 2011, 2012, 2013 set of years really helped because you had a lot of DJs going to the same events, even if it wasn't your event.
Right.
So
a lot of support, basically.
yeah,
A
I
lot
mean,
of
you got to
support
bond, you
between
got to
promoters.
drink, you got to hang out, you got to know them, you got to become friends. And then as places started to dry up, promotional groups dried up as well. Vice was a great place, in my opinion. It was a great club for some of those shows that they brought in. But the lease ran out on that, and they didn't want to redo it because it was, I guess, way too much money to do it. And I don't know that it's anything right now, to be honest with you.
I thought that Sarang was a pretty good spot, even though it was
Yeah.
kind of smaller back in the day.
That's
It's
where
fun.
I cut my teeth over here. I was thanks to Randon, yeah.
Ass to mouth.
Yep. ATM.
There's one thing I wanted to touch on, though. Going back to the difference between the scenes. A few years back, we didn't have headliners every weekend.
Or if we did have headliners, it was the same 4 headliners coming to Hawaii
Yeah,
every
yeah.
year.
Yeah, but we still had stuff going on. Every weekend. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think the big difference is that back in that day, everyone went out to whatever was going on, no matter who was playing. Like if it was a whole local DJ lineup, the place would still be packed. I mean,
Right.
I think now that's the big difference is that everyone wants to see just the headliner, and for me, there's a difference between producers that can DJ and producers who can DJ really good.
Mhm.
There's something a disconnect there between the local DJs and the scene here.
So you're basically saying back then there was a lot of support for the local community of
Yeah.
DJs compared to now where they just, okay, there's certain venues where the mainstream always goes to,
Yeah.
but, they're there for the headliners. They don't even bother listening to the opening DJs.
Yeah.
They pack the club when the headliner DJs get there. And I think that's what the disconnect is that you're talking
Yeah.
about in terms of support. It's kind of sad, but that's what happens when the scene gets popular, and then after everybody gets too old to go to raves and they just go to regular clubs, the scene
Yeah.
dies down again.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mike?
I agree 100%. I think there is a disconnect. I think that we don't see each other near as much anymore.
Yeah.
Now that you don't have those, and I mean even the parties that were being thrown, you may not have a headliner, but like you said, people would show up.
Yeah.
You'd still have a pretty good crowd going, and you would have all of your DJ friends and some from other promotional groups that you could hang out with and enjoy the night. And I think just the lack of parties and events and Friday and Saturday nights in general at clubs that we used to have that are no longer around has fractured it a little bit. I think with Electric Palms now, who's pretty much the big hitter on the island as far as bringing in big EDM talent, that's not a club scene. That's a concert scene. It's basically
Exactly.
It's not as intimate anymore, I guess would be the word I would have to say.
It's not like a family of ravers and
True.
DJs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's good for the scene too. I mean, we're getting headliners out here every week, and it's making a little bit of a name for Hawaii, globally around in the dance music scene. And
Yeah.
I think that's good in that aspect. But for people who don't want to do that every weekend, I think there's something missing here on the island that for somewhere for everyone to go that doesn't want to spend $60
Right.
on a ticket, which
Well, that's why we have Electron.
yeah,
It's kind of smaller.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, come out to Electron. We're doing Fridays. I think Saturdays is unlocked too. Come out here, support the local scene.
Even the big room, even Crossroads.
Yeah.
If we have some people come through, or just Link, just a couple of weeks ago, it was January, but that had all local talent.
Yeah,
and
that
there
was
were
awesome.
a ton of people here, for that event.
Yeah.
So, how do you How do you create an event like Link, which I think is on its 3-year anniversary now?
Yes,
or a
correct,
3-year
correct.
anniversary? How do you create that, but multiply it?
Yeah.
Being that, you know, you don't want to oversaturate it. You don't want to do something. I think doing something every month kind of hurt us as a peer coalition at Sarang. Doing something every week, absolutely, I think hurt us because it was just, you know, the same people coming up, and eventually it died down. It wasn't special anymore. But I think that with, you know, Crossroads doing it, you know, every couple of months, kind of brings it back.
Yeah, definitely. It was good to see everyone out. That's for sure.
For sure.
All right, guys, we're going to take a break. So we're going to talk about a new topic, which is what makes a DJ a DJ. And what this means is, you know, what does a DJ need to be qualified as a DJ? Does he need to spin vinyl? Does he need to have accumulated a certain amount of years in DJing? What do you guys think?
I'll start. Yeah. I think you got to cut your teeth on everything. I think it's harder now because there's so many different things. There's so many different controllers and Ableton and all these different programs and whatnot that you can use to really DJ. There wasn't that back when we were first starting out. It was a set of turntables and that was it.
Yeah, I think getting a little bit off subject, I think it was a little bit more expensive for us to get into DJing back in the day than it is now.
Yeah, I mean, at that point in time, it might have been a little bit more expensive, but I mean, you know, some of this Pioneer stuff that's coming out, you could spend $6,000 easily.
Oh yeah.
But you know, I don't think there's a formula out there, so to speak, as far as, you know, what makes a DJ a DJ. I think, you know, I think that you versatile yourself. Is that a word? Versatile.
Versatile.
It is
yeah,
now.
That's a word.
I think,
is now.
it is now. I think you versatile yourself by trying new things. Whether it is turntables, you may fail horribly, but you at least tried it.
Yeah.
If it's not for you, move on to the next thing. If that's the digital era, great. If it's, you know, if it's using a laptop to help you, you know, I think having all of those tricks in your back pocket makes you a better DJ. And then obviously the hours, the man hours to putting in, whether it's, you know, beat matching or finding tracks that sound good together, you know, using mixing key, you know, really stripping away just music as itself and getting to the components of what makes a track go well with another track.
Yeah.
Right.
I think when you put those kind of man hours into it, I think you can come out the other side being a pretty good DJ.
I think a lot of it too is paying your dues in regards to playing at clubs. You know, a lot of these DJs nowadays want to be the superstar. They want to be up there on stage banging the latest tracks. But I think a lot of them need to pay their dues like we did back in the day, you know. For me, I was a flyer bitch back in the day. I had to go around and pass out flyers at like my college and try to convince people to go to our parties, and it sucked.
Yeah.
You know, I hated it, but because I was able to do that for half a year, I finally got my first gig at Virus. And, you know, a lot of these kids don't understand that nowadays. A lot of them just think, oh, I'm going to make a track. Okay, my track sounds like this track. I'm
Put
going
me
to
on the
play it.
stage, yeah.
Exactly.
Put me
You
in
know,
front of
they
everybody.
expect way too much, and they're being spoon-fed nowadays. And I think it's like with any job, you know, you got to start with the grunt work and work your way up to the management position. It's the same thing with DJing. You know, you got to earn your way up there. And a lot of with producing, I feel that, you know, a lot of these kids make these tracks, or some of them even pay ghost producers to make their tracks, and then they expect to get up there and get popular. And, you know, a lot of them fail. Sometimes they get really good at it. It sucks for the rest of us, but, you know, we know who's real and who isn't.
Yeah, I've witnessed firsthand DJs now, let's say, that are good at playing a set, but I have witnessed firsthand DJs that have come to this island that are really great producers that don't know what the hell they're doing when it comes to mixing.
There's a big...
I know three right off the top of my head that I can think of that didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah,
Are they really popular producers?
They are now.
Yeah.
They are now.
Wow.
There are some producers out there that are amazing DJs, and that goes back to, you know, seeing headliners and whatever. But there's a lot of producers out there great producers, not so great DJs, but that's the thing. That's how everything goes now. No matter how good of a DJ you are, it's the producers who are getting all the attention now.
It's all the hours behind, it's all the hours staring at a computer and basically keyboards and basically creating this track.
Yeah.
And somebody comes to you and says, "Oh my God, your 5 tracks are just they're hot. They're so awesome. That's great. We want to put you on tour. Let's go." And you have no time to wait a second. Now I got to mix all this stuff together. And like I said, I they're good now. I listen to their podcasts and their stuff that they do, their monthly shows, and going back to what makes a DJ, those guys had plenty of time now to mix their tracks, and they got better and they got better and they got better, and now it's a really good podcast. And they know what they're doing, so they've got that producer side and that DJ side of things.
A lot of back then, I want to touch on the fact that there was no producer / DJ when it was during the vinyl days. It was mostly either you were a DJ or you were a producer.
Right.
Producers like Richie Hawtin, he used live equipment to make his tracks back in the day. And there was DJs like us, or like say someone like Bad Boy Bill. He wasn't really known for producing, more so being a badass DJ.
Yeah.
And it started to kind of mesh together the more advanced technology and computers got. And for me, I think that really, like, what makes a DJ, well, what I feel makes a producer are those producers that use actual synthesizers and analog, this and that. I don't even know what the terms are, but all the crazy equipment that you see pictures of on the internet. I feel like if they make everything from scratch instead of using presets on Ableton or all those other programs, I feel that's what makes a producer. A producer is creating that track from scratch and just tweaking for hours. One of the main influences for producing for me, and I feel is like a legit producer, is Wolfgang Gartner. Like, this guy basically created the whole complextral genre that everybody's like jumping on, and kind of delved into dubstep. And he still uses synthesizers, even if he could use computers. He has that dedication to just find that right bass line and that right stab and everything. So that's for me, at least. What do you guys think?
I agree. I mean, that adds the musical talent element to it for me. I've painted stuff on Ableton and it sounded great, but you know what? Getting it in there where you're playing it live, like on a synth, it just gives it that natural feel to it. It doesn't feel so computerized and boxy to me.
I totally agree. What about you, Mike?
I agree with you guys. I like I said, I'm not much of a producer, so
neither am I, by the way.
To my extent, it's just being creative. The biggest thing that I've ever dabbled in as far as something outside of mixing is just creating mashups and bootlegs. So that's my creative nature as far as finding acapellas that are good enough quality, if not studio released quality, that allows us to put those acapellas over tracks.
Yeah, totally, and that's still a set of producing that not a lot of people really get into nowadays. Everybody wants to make like really crappy mashups where it's not even an actual mashup. They'll like literally take 2 songs and like stick them over each other. Yeah, it's off key and it's just clashing, but that comes to not knowing the basics of either producing or DJing. And
there's still got to be a musical element to it. I mean, you can't just mash things together and
it's called mashups, but it doesn't literally
it doesn't mean mash it together.
Right.
Yeah.
And mashups, like, not a lot of people even know what mashups really are. Like, nowadays people think, oh, I'm gonna mash up this trance song with this trance song, but mashups, like during the whole DJ AM era, it was just mixing 2 totally opposite polar styles to make one song, and it would match most of the time. But it's
basically grabbing a bass line from one song and throwing the vocals over it
right.
from a different song. That, to me, that's what a mashup is.
I guess you could. I mean, there's a lot of differentiation between what a mashup is or what a bootleg is or what an edit is. Most of my stuff when I first started out, I considered mashups, but I've recently, probably within the last year or two, actually just began to call them edits. Just because I'm kind of editing it. I'm not really mashing two songs together, so to speak. But I feel like that if you can take components from one song and components from another song, not even just acapellas, but actual components where they sound good and you're putting them together, you could probably consider that a mashup. If I'm just adding vocals over a track that did not have vocals to start with, I'll claim that as an edit all day long.
So what makes a bootleg? Because I always get confused.
You know, bootlegs, in my opinion, were something where you could take one track that on its build-up, you could then start to bring in another track that had the same build-up, so to speak. And then when the drop came, that new track took the place of the previous. Right. So it was something where you were hearing this one track, I know it's coming, then the drop is something completely different, which takes people off guard.
My idea of a bootleg has always been an unofficial remix.
Yeah, that's what I always thought too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that covers what you were just explaining. So a bootleg for me would be like a white label.
Yeah, a white label. Yeah. Like something that I worked on, but it's mine. You know, I'm not gonna put it on a label, or it's not out on a label. It's just for me to use. My own little remix. That's how I would do it.
Yeah.
So in terms of producing, I just wanted to ask you guys, what do you guys use, like in terms of software? And I've always been curious.
I don't really anymore, but Ableton and a bunch of
software, basically.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten into it that much. I do need to get into it a lot more, though.
You're too old.
I'm never too old, man.
You're too old. Myself, I've tried to use Ableton. Like I said, I don't have the time to sit down and learn it or go through an hour-long tutorial. So when I look at it, it looks like hieroglyphs to me. I did get into FL Studios. I found that was a little easier platform, not as many things going on. A little bit easier to plug in stuff. So if I had an acapella that I needed to do like a vocalizer or something like that, it was a little bit easier for me to stutter it and vocalize. But most of my stuff is live. Like I will sit there live and just hammer out acapella, and just figure out which one's going to work and fit. And when I find a match, I let it go.
So you do the mashup or remix basically live when you're mixing two songs.
Yeah,
that's really hard.
Not within a mix itself, but I'll literally take one track and then on one deck, and I'll take an acapella on the other deck, and then I'll cue it up, figure out what points I'm going to use on the acapella and what parts it'll work within the track, and just keep hammering it out, figure out which one's going to work, and if I find a match, I'll put it up.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, for me, I think the mistake I made, I don't want to say a mistake, but I started out on Pro Tools, and I think I got kind of, what do you call it?
Used to it or turned off?
Yeah, turned off on it. I think it was a little much to just start off on. But more recently, guys like Mike D, some other guys have been, showing me the ropes around Ableton. And thank you, Mike D.
Not Mike Diaz and Mike Darnell, the other Mike D and
Vegas. Yeah, the other Mike D.
Okay, just got to clarify that for the listeners.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for him to show me. There's been a couple times we were at his house. I think from like 6 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning, just messing around Ableton, and those hours, man, just trying to soak in as much as I could. But there's always more to it.
There's always more to learn. It's always a learning experience in DJing or producing. So let's go on to our next topic, which is DJ etiquette, because I know you both have a lot to say about that, especially myself. So any one of you guys want to go off on a tangent about that right now? Go for it.
Go ahead, man.
Well, what are we talking about DJ etiquette? We're talking about Are we talking about how you should present yourself in the booth? Are we going to talk about how
treat other DJs.
How you should treat other DJs? How you should open a set?
Let's start off with how you should open a set with DJ etiquette compared to like the other DJs after you, because I know there's a lot of complaints from experienced DJs towards the newer DJs that don't. They always say like, oh, that guy doesn't know DJ etiquette. He should know that. So let's kind of dwell on that, and then we'll work our way towards the other topics of DJ etiquette.
I think that it's a little difficult when you first start off as a DJ, when you maybe first get your first stage presence out there. I'm going to be in front of people. I don't want to scare everybody away from the dance floor. So I will be the first to admit that I have banged out tracks in an opening set.
Oh, me too.
And did not lose any sleep over it. Is it the right thing to do? I think these days, I think there's so many genres out there. I think that it allows you to kind of not bang tracks for an hour. I think it allows you to slow your tempo down in certain spots, and throw in a banger every once in a while. I mean, you're a DJ, do what you're gonna do. I feel like going 1 hour, just balls to the wall, that's not good DJ etiquette.
Yeah, no, not for an opening set.
No.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like now I was talking about earlier, building a set, programming a set. I think you got to look at an even bigger picture is like building the night for an event. Instead of building a set, you're setting up DJs to the peak of your show, to your headliner. If you have 4 hours of just all banging stuff, people are going to get bored. I think you got to kind of build up to your headliner. And I think as opening DJs, they should know that and kind of follow it along. I mean, you're not trying to outdo anyone, especially if you're the headline, not the headliner.
Yeah, I think a lot of DJs nowadays, I've heard a lot of complaints, especially towards Chucky complained about this recently. There's a DJ before him that played like half of his songs or something, and I think that's a main thing about DJ etiquette that a lot of the newer DJs should understand is you don't play the other DJ's songs.
Yeah, don't play the headliner song. That's a number one.
They definitely don't like that.
Because the headlining DJ is expected to play his songs. You don't do that. That's like stealing another author's book or something.
And I have done that one too.
Well, one or two songs is okay, but if it's like half a set of the other DJ's songs.
I opened for Seven Lions, and I played a track of his that worked awesome in my set. Everyone loved it. Next thing I know, who comes up in the booth? The man himself. Oh, thank you for playing my track. Oh, sorry. I knew it was bad etiquette, but I did it anyway. I apologized to him. But it did kind of irk him, enough for him to come up to the booth and, see who the hell I was.
I've had a DJ complain about it. This was on my birthday set at the Warehouse a couple years ago. The DJ that I played after complained to the promoter because I was playing a faster BPM to her than her DJ. It's like, why are you gonna complain that I'm playing a faster BPM than you? That makes no sense. Like, seriously, I've never heard that before in DJ etiquette, and I was just flabbergasted. I felt kind of bad because that person was the headliner, but
it's kind of a back and forth thing though too. I mean, if you're a headliner, I really think you should be able to outplay someone that's opening up for you because you are that headliner. You should have earned that spot.
Yeah, you should have songs. I mean, in case like another DJ plays your songs, play some other songs that maybe you're working on, or maybe like another producer made. Like
I've been on both sides of it where I've actually opened right before the headliner. I've also been on side of it where I have been the first one on the card that night. I think that I'll make a good example. When Diplo came to the Republic, they had Graves open up, Christian, and that guy didn't hold anything back. He literally just let loose, and it was one of the only times that I've ever seen a crowd be crazy for the guy that's opening up before the headliner, and then the headliner come on, flawlessly come right in, plays somewhat the same kind of style music. Diplo and Christian are they're pretty close.
Pretty similar.
Yeah. And just like there was no headliner before him. Like it was Diplo's, like it was the first thing going.
Yeah, he's not crashing that vibe that
He didn't.
Christian
Perfect flow.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're talking about, the flow of the night. Just all around good times, and no stopping. No killing the vibe or anything like that.
But I've seen DJs like that play that kind of set. The very first, like the 9 o'clock, that's the set they're throwing down.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, what do you just calm down a little bit? There's 50 people in here.
Yeah.
Just slow your roll a little bit.
Yeah, and then now those 50 people are like at a certain point, musically and in their night, and now the next person comes on and they're expecting more, and you've already killed it for them.
I think a lot of that has to do with the promotion booking the right DJ for opening. They should do
exactly.
a little research. If they're going to book a DJ to play first, they should know that, okay, I'm not going to book a drum and bass DJ for 9 o'clock. I'm going to book someone that kind of plays deep house or maybe like mellow house or something like that. I think it goes hand in hand. If a DJ gets booked and they're a drum and bass DJ, maybe they should know how to play a house or something, kind of adapt.
That goes back to just being a DJ in general.
Knowing your element.
Yeah, I've played everything under the sun over the years, and I think it's really allowed me to bend myself musically when I'm playing to the crowd that I'm playing to, and the time slot that I'm playing and who I'm playing after and before. I, as a DJ, I try and keep that in my head when I'm playing. What the guy before me played, what the person after me is expecting to play. I try to keep all that in mind when I play.
And I think it's I think there's two different styles you can go with here. There's headliner concert kind of style, where I think that you have this etiquette, that you have to kind of follow a little bit. But then you go back to, when we were running Sarang and Spectrum, it didn't matter what time, who went on where.
Yeah.
It was just balls to the wall from 9 to 4.
Yeah.
And, there's different kinds of things. When you're in a club, I think that you're trying to keep that tempo up for the whole night. You don't want any kind of lull periods. Maybe when you first start opening, when the bar's not even open yet. But I think that there's two different ways to use that DJ etiquette. And obviously, if it's a club scene, I feel like go ahead and do whatever you're gonna do. But if you're in front of a headliner, you gotta have some of that. What makes a DJ a DJ?
Yeah.
You gotta have that mentality somehow, just to kind of where you're at, slow down, or don't go balls to the wall just as you can.
I think part of it, as all of us are DJs, I think some of the other DJs aren't thinking the aspect of a person going to one of these events for 4 or 5 hours a night. How they're going to feel about hearing bangers for 5 hours straight, or hearing, different styles of music throughout the night.
Yeah, I think a lot of it with DJ etiquette is that a lot of the older guys, care about it, and the younger guys doesn't. I think for us, we should be educating them. Sometimes they don't listen to us, sometimes they do.
DJs have some of the biggest egos on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Especially you got some young buck coming up that's thinks his crap don't stink, and you're trying to tell them, hey, slow down a little bit, and they're like, no, I'm not listening to you.
I wish someone would have done that to me a long time ago. I really do.
So I think one of the main things for DJ etiquette is that, for me, when that DJ is playing before me, don't play a fucking 15-minute song into my set. Set it up properly for me.
Big Daddy Dave.
You guys have any experiences with DJs doing that? You don't have to name names, just tell us experiences.
Not so much tracks. I mean, if there's a guy that comes on before me that maybe plays a little bit progressive or even trance-like stuff, and I come up to the booth and it's like, all right, okay, I'm up next, and I look at the deck and then there's 5.5 minutes left. I'm like, what the hell do you want me to do here for 5 minutes? I don't need to set up. I'm putting a USB stick in. But my biggest pet peeve is DJs that are using computers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And-
Controllers.
and controllers and whatnot, and I'm coming up with it with a flash drive in my headphones, and there's 85 cords that's got to be pulled out of the back of the deck just to get my channels going. I'm not a sound technician. I don't claim to be one, and so I'm looking for one. If I see a computer up there before my set, I'm grabbing the guy 5 minutes beforehand and saying, "Hey, follow me up," because I don't want beeping in my ears when I throw my channel up.
Or after, if a DJ has a controller or whatever complicated equipment after your set that stuff up way in advance. You know, don't do it like 2 minutes before, and you know you're gonna lose 10 minutes because you're setting up everything up there, and we gotta play
Right.
an extra couple songs.
And that's one of the reasons why I went straight off my flash drive, like how you're doing. Throttle's great and all, tractor's great and all, but it's just a lot easier for me.
The technology's out there now, where you have everything at your hands if you're on a state of the art equipment, which is usually 2000s with a 900 mixer. That's pretty much the gold standard these days for DJ equipment and shows, like it is here at Electron. But if you use Rekordbox and you use a flash drive and you use it correctly, the display screens on these decks are so big these days that you have everything in front of you that you have on a computer. You have your track list that you put on. You have the waveforms. You have everything in front of you. And I think that people have become numb to the fact of just using the computers because it's an easy way to get your tracks.
Yeah, you even have sync. I mean, come on.
I was just gonna say there are some things that Serato and Tractor will allow you to do that Rekordbox won't. But it's the give and take, man. Yeah. It's I don't have to lug around a laptop everywhere anymore. Just like from back in the day, I didn't have to lug around 100, or my friends didn't have to lug around 150 pounds of vinyl for me. Everywhere I DJ'd. Now I just carry around flash drive or external. It's a give and take.
Yeah, technology has really made it easy nowadays. For me, I've experimented with everything. I've used Tractor, Serato, controllers. I've had the DDJ-SX. I've had the XDJ-RX. I've used vinyl.
I just picked that up.
The XDJ-RX?
Yeah.
How do you like it?
I like it. Yeah, I mean, it's specifically for my house. It's specifically to use. I had a Denon 1000s, man. Those things were ancient. Pitch key. The pitch key was a plus and minus button, and you could literally hold it with each finger, and that's how you adjusted pitch.
It's horrible.
But I mean, I had those forever. I used them until they were running into the ground. And the XDJ-RX, I just got it. Shout out to Spin Knowledge here in Hawaii. EP and Sherry helped me out with that. Good pricing. But I like it. I like the things that you can do with it.
Yeah, I totally loved it. But with me, like, I'm really picky with technologies. And
There was a phase there where I think you went through like 3 or 4 controllers.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I went back to the basics, which is the CDJ 2000s and DJM 2000, because for me, personally, I didn't want to carry controllers around, and all the places I play at use CDJ 2000s, so I just figured might as well just get the basics down.
Right.
It is quite a bit more expensive, though.
True.
It is.
True.
Well, there's that new CDJ 2000 Nexus something that's coming out. With Yeah. So say goodbye to our paychecks in the future.
I just did.
Oh, there you go. You guys have anything else to add to the podcast that you want to talk about?
No, I think people are tired of listening to us talk right now.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners, to listening to us. We'll be back again next month. I just want to say thank you to Corey Farron and DJ Unz. You guys want to say any goodbyes or shout outs?
Just want to say thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, totally. Next month, man.
And everyone, you can catch me every Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. on My 9to59. It's Outcast Radio. I've had these two guys on a couple times each, so be sure to check that out.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. No shout outs, just a thanks to listening for us talk about our old age and DJing equipment and music for an hour.
I just want to say thank you to Corey Farron, a.k.a. Ferry Corsten, and DJ Unz, not the one, Mike D, not the one from Vegas, but the Mike D from Hawaii. We'll be on again next month. Make sure you check us out on Mixcloud or SoundCloud or wherever I decide to upload this podcast at. I want to say a special shout out and thanks to Lee Anderson and everybody at Hawaiian Brian's for letting us do our podcast here.
Yep.
So
Yep.
thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any comments or anything, just send it either to me or DJ Unts or Corey Farron on Facebook. I'll post the links down below in the description for whichever website we use. Aloha, guys. Thank you.
Aloha.
Have a good one.